Heart Foundation petition and why you should sign it, and why it's really important to get involved and put a stop to what the Heart Foundation are doing. So I really think it's time that the public at large learn the truth about healthy advice so that they can protect themselves and their loved ones from not only heart disease but many other chronic degenerative illnesses, including cancer, Alzheimer's, macular degeneration, and arthritis, and there are a myriad of other illnesses involved. And I believe they are strongly contributed to by poor nutritional advice based on dodgy science for the sake of money and profiteering rather than people's health. So the Heart Foundation currently advises that we steer clear of dangerous saturated fats, consume margarine, vegetable and seed oils, keep our cholesterol really low, and consume a diet made up of mostly carbohydrates, and choose foods with a tick of approval, the very large majority of which are highly processed, devoid of essential nutrients, and many which have contained huge amounts of sugar, for example Milo cereal, which is 27% refined sugar. So they claim that this advice is based on solid scientific evidence. However, the evidence they continue to produce is very outdated and has been debunked by major studies. There's a massive study that the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition published, which has over 340,000 subjects, and they found that there was no correlation between saturated fat and heart disease. But the Heart Foundation continued to hold on to outdated hypothesis around saturated fat and cholesterol, and they refuse to acknowledge and look at new research and evidence, mainly because their major sponsors and funders are Flora Proactive and people in Nestle and Unilever. So basically they're puppets for the processed food industry. And I just think it's really, really disgusting that a charity that is supposed to be helping people with prevent and reverse heart disease is promoting the very things that will cause not only heart disease but a range of illnesses. So that's why I'm really passionate about putting a stop to what they're doing. Yeah, so myself and a lot of other health professionals and people in the industry have actually sent them the research and asked them to look at the new evidence and science, and they just basically fob us off, which is why I started the petition to generate public support and to basically shame them into putting a stop to their program. So that's what we're all about. So let's talk about saturated fat and dietary cholesterol and the way it's been demonized. So both saturated fat and dietary cholesterol are actually really healthy and a really necessary part of the diet when used correctly and when used in balance. So when I talk about saturated fat, the Heart Foundation seem to get confused when they talk about these things too. They talk about saturated fat in a lot of processed foods, but the saturated fat I'm talking about, and there's also in every fat in nature, there's saturated fat, monounsaturated fat, and polyunsaturated fat. So they seem to have a very simplistic and kind of confused idea about what saturated fat actually is. So when I'm talking about, I'm meaning healthy sources such as butter from grass-fed cows, animal fats from animals that have been naturally raised on grass and free of chemicals and antibiotics and that kind of thing. Eggs, including the cholesterol-filled yolk, that's in terms of cholesterol, and unrefined coconut oil, and other healthy fats such as avocado and that kind of thing, and nuts and seeds. So all of these things have actually been found to be extremely beneficial for health, and they actually assist in protecting instead of causing cardiovascular disease. So there's been a great deal of research and science to show this, which has been largely ignored by the medical and scientific communities and by heart foundations and nutritional authorities around the world. So this is not just a problem in Australia, but it's really a global problem. So some of these researchers and scientists, doctors, cardiovascular surgeons, obesity experts, authors, nutritionists, there's a myriad of them out there. Don't take my word for any of this. Look it up yourself. There's Dr. Andreas Enfeldt in Sweden, Dr. Malcolm Kendrick, the late Dr. Barry Groves. There's Zoe Harcombe and Dr. John Briffer over in the UK, Dr. Chris Kresser, Cindy O'Meara in Australia, Dr. Sandra Cabau. There's Dr. Peter Dingle, Sally Fallon and Mary Enig from the Weston A. Price Foundation have been working tirelessly for years to get this information out there. Hugh Franskov, Anthony Colpo, and there are many others. So, and all of these people rely on evidence-based research and science, and a great deal of well-respected scientific studies. It's not opinion or quackery that we're talking about here. This is science, evidence-based, factual information that the Heart Foundation continue to ignore and refuse to catch up with. So it really is time people learn the truth. the current advice contributes to inflammation, heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and a whole host of other unpleasant and unnecessary medical complications. So especially when we look at the advice to swap out saturated fats and cholesterol for margarine and for other vegetable and seed oils such as canola oil, soybean oil, corn, cottonseed, sunflower, safflower, all of those kinds of oils. They're actually really, really highly processed. They're really high in omega-6, which is, again, inflammatory, and they cause free radicals and damage throughout our bodies. So it's really important that we get rid of those fats. And then there's also the problem of trans fats. I know the Heart Foundation in Australia say that the levels of trans fats in our margarines are very low, but it has been shown that even just a 2% increase of trans fat in our diet correlates to a 23% increase in heart disease. So there really are no safe levels of trans fats, and we really need to, you know, get on the Heart Foundation and make them stop doing what they're doing, because they are absolutely damaging the health of Australians. I have people contacting me saying their loved ones dropped out of a heart attack at 40, at 30. There's people in their 20s and even teenagers having heart attacks. It is the #1 killer in Australia, and we really do need to put a stop to this ridiculous information being propagated, because people do trust the Heart Foundation. They're a charity. They're supposed to be helping people with their heart health, and instead of doing that, they're puppets for the food industry. It's completely unacceptable. You can read a lot more about this on my blog at Get a Fresh Start. There's a segment on a current affair with myself and Cindy O'Meara, sorry. And if you could please, I just really implore you to sign the petition to come along on Tuesday the 14th of October. We're going to go directly to the Heart Foundation headquarters and hand over the petition with the list of, there's over 20,000 signatures now, and we need to get more before the 14th of October. I just really implore everyone to get involved and to get behind this, and please help us out in getting the truth out there about heart disease and what actually causes it.